Welcome to Triptych.
Three friends having a chat
about three artistic masterpieces,
Making connections for modern life. Welcome. This is episode 5 of season 2. We're trucking along and having a blast. It's really nice to see you both again.
Hey.
Yeah, good to see you.
You guys all right?
That's a loaded question.
Yep.
Pass.
Okay, great. So
Can you
we're
pass
in
on
for
those?
Well, you have,
sure.
and we'll move quite quickly along. So maybe quite fittingly, this was Sophie's suggestion, but I think it is an excellent one. What character from a book or movie or whatever you would most like to slap? Sophie's exact words.
Those are my words. I just want to say we do not condone violence on this podcast.
No, and I would just like to say personally, I don't know about Sophie, but I am not in the habit of slapping anybody. But anyway, Sophie, it was your idea. Who would you most like to slap?
Well, basically, I really want to slap Uriah Heep from David Copperfield by Dickens. I don't think I've ever felt such a visceral hatred for a character before.
Wow.
Normally, I don't know. Normally, I can kind of, you get some kind of backstory. You have an understanding at least, even if it's not forgivable what they do. But oh my goodness, he was just such a sycophant and just plotting the whole time while having the appearance of being super spiritual and humble. Maybe I've met too many people like him in church. I don't know.
Oh boy.
I'm just kidding.
That's another podcast.
Many a true word spoken in jest, Sophie.
But his whole I'm ever so humble shtick. I mean, I can't cope with it. I do want to slap him. So that's me. No,
and actually I think maybe one could go so far as to say that is one of the few examples where actually violence is justifiable.
Yes. I mean, he's just awful, and he's plotting and scheming. Ugh.
I mean, he's being set up to fall, isn't he, by Dickens? But fair enough.
He is. We all want his comeuppance.
That sounds like good writing then.
It is.
Speaking of good writing, Joel, what have you come up with?
Well, I don't know if we're speaking of good writing.
Well, I was.
First of all, again, I want to endorse the fact that, we're not condoning violence here. And I'm kind of sifting through characters in different things. And I'm like, wait a minute, Yoda. We recognize that Yoda leads to other really annoying characters in the Star Wars universe.
Oh my goodness.
But I chose Yoda because he gets so much screen time. I feel like, early on as a child, you snuck that one by me because he sounded so profound and he's so small. And so you think, okay, but then why is he the only character who doesn't talk in straight sentences? What's going on? Everybody else has figured out this conversation across the universe and, different cultures, different languages. And Yoda just can't seem to get a sentence straight.
So you find that part of the plot implausible?
Yes, that is implausible. Yeah, that in a galaxy far, far away. Yes, that one thing is the thing that I'm like. That brings me back to reality. I'm like.
I love how you're like, I don't condone violence in any way, but I really want to smack this puppet.
I know. And talk about picking on someone your own size.
Did you see him fight? Come on. I don't think I could slap him if I wanted to.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, okay.
I can never get over the fact that it's the same voice as Fozzie Bear, and I just hear Fozzie Bear every time, and that makes me laugh.
No, I mean, when you have short lines that are supposed to be profound, and you keep doing this over many films, it's after a while you're like, why did you get a line right there? Why did they let you speak?
All the right words, just not necessarily in the right order. Very good. Well, that's definitely, slappable points there. When we were thinking about this, I'm a bit embarrassed because I've gone a bit highbrow here. I don't know.
Not like you, Mark.
I know. It's embarrassing.
What?
And it basically, by the time I told you just a few minutes ago, it's too late to think of something else. So I'm a bit stuck. But anyway, here's mine. Is a chap called Kenneth Widmerpool, and he is the antagonist of Anthony Pohl's 12-volume masterpiece, A Dance to the Music of Time. It's set in Britain over 5 decades, and it's all through the same narrator who's basically observing the world over these 5 decades with a huge cast of characters. But Widmerpool is in every single novel of the 12. And he's one of these guys who's odious, but lucky, and he climbs to the top. He becomes a Labour MP and then even goes to the House of Lords. He does have an absolutely pitiful downfall, but you get to the point, I know, after 12 novels, you know, and you've been held through this whole time, you sort of think, at last. So Widmerpool, brilliant name, ghastly character. There was a TV series adaptation of it with Simon Russell Beale, who played him from the age of 18 to 68. He played him brilliantly. So I can't get Simon Russell Beale out of my mind in terms of the character, but he would be mine. And I think if you met him, you'd be slapping away.
Is it the actor you want to slap? No, or
no.
Okay.
I huge
just the
admiration
character.
Just the character.
Okay.
I'm the only one who wants to slap a hero
and a puppet.
Yes. And a
Right.
puppet.
No, that actually makes me feel better. I do have a thing
And
about puppets. Maybe
someone
that's
who's
it,
a third of your size.
I do have a thing about puppets, though. So
Okay,
I
fine.
mean,
feel okay.
that's fine.
My conscience is fine in all of this.
Is it like people have things about clowns? Do they give you
Yeah, I was
nightmares?
going to say this is a deep childhood psyche moment. So
Oh, you
we're
wouldn't
delving
believe.
into things.
We can't get into that today, though.
Okay, well, on that happy note, we'll end this bit.
So my masterpiece this time is I Cheerfully Refuse, a novel by Leif Enger. This was a singular literary experience for me. I really have never read anything quite like Leif Enger. I mean, he's a lot of reviewers describe his writing as musical, and I think that's a good term for it. He's writing prose like a poet, while at the same time just a lot of insight on the human condition, on our hearts, some of the things that really matter to us. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I cannot tell you that there's ever been a book that has made me cry more than once.
Wow.
And there were just moments. And the funny thing is, it wasn't the most tragic moments of the book that necessarily affected me quite as much, although they did. And I thought, I mean, I'm going right into it. And part of that is I don't want to spoil this for anyone who wants to read it. I think it was so well done. There's a tragic moment that he handles with such dignity and care and without any gore or any sense of kind of sensationalizing violence, but he does enough for you to enter the moment and feel it. And I thought, what brilliant writing. Because I think we're in an age where we sensationalize gore in a certain way. We call it realism, but really in some ways it's a lack of skill. And I think he employed such skill in a moment where I think he wanted you to feel for the characters in a certain way. And I thought, oh man, that's so good. He has so many good just turns of phrase, descriptions. It's wonderfully vivid. To kind of back away from my own reaction to it, when I kind of read the summary of it being this kind of dystopian novel set in the not too distant future in America, I was expecting a completely different novel, to be honest. And, you know, we've talked about this. I like dystopian. I like dystopian TV shows. So I was going in a particular expectation, and I was like, okay, this is not what I expected, but wow, this is good. This is, it sucks you in immediately. You start to appreciate the characters. I love the narration technique he used. I love the fact that he never ever says what happened to the world.
No, exactly.
I thought that's amazing. But of course, why would you say it if you're living this? What you're not. Yeah, the character is living in his own world. He's not describing it for somebody who's coming from a different world. So you never get a sense of what went wrong. You get little details along the way, and oh, you know, the satellites fell out of the sky, you know, some of that kind of thing. And oh, right, we don't have reliable cell phone service because of some of that. But you never hear whatever the calamity was that changed the world and changed the politics. And I thought, wow, I mean, you have me wondering, but it's not the most important detail. And I think it's amazing to kind of inhabit this world of unpredictability, evil, pain, yet hope and love and joy. Yes, so it was a thoroughly delightful experience to read it. I remember kind of accelerating in my reading as I was going through, because, you know, you get into the story, you're now hooked, and you want to know where this is going. And there are elements of it that are kind of magical and fantastic, and I love those too. And again, he made me believe. which I think is such a good quality in writing. When you have me buy into your story, it's not like a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So, what did you guys think of it?
I loved it. I'm so glad that we got to read it. And yeah, I think a word that I kind of came up to describe it is gentle dystopia in that sense, because
you've heard it here first, folks. That's the first use of this term.
Yes, we're going to coin it.
It's gentle dystopia because, nothing is apparent in the first chapter or so that anything is different. It feels like our world, you can imagine a small town, in the middle of nowhere in America, and the characters are just, inhabiting their kind of lives in the same way that we do. So I loved that. And I thought the gentle characterization, I thought it really isn't out of place. It kind of goes with a kind of Wendell Berry and Marilyn Robinson kind of feel. That was kind of what I thought with the way the characters are drawn. It's very gentle. We get a lot of their kind of inner worlds, and as you go on this journey with Rainey, the main character, and you follow him around and kind of enter this kind of sense of peril as he kind of goes onto the boat and everything. It just so draws you with you, and it goes to places that I didn't expect it to, which I loved, because you think you're set up in the beginning and you're like, oh, it's all going to take place here, and then calamity strikes, and you end up on this kind of epic voyage as he goes seeking, and picks up various characters along the way. I really loved the character of Sol. I think possibly because I have a child called Sol, even though
I was going to say
this child is a girl, but
Is it?
Yeah. So, but I felt like Sol was kind of like a kind of scout character from To Kill a Mockingbird. She's very scrappy. I just loved her. You just feel instantly like this warmth and protectiveness towards her, because she's obviously been through a lot of abuse and horror in her life. Yet she has this kind of just scrappy determination to her, which you just love.
She's a survivor.
Yeah, she is a survivor, and she's just so great, which I love. And then the character of Warwick, I think we're pronouncing it. Oh, he's such a intriguing villain. He's terrifying in his like genteelness. When he enters the story, there is nothing about him that makes you think he is going to be a major antagonist in this. And I love how Leif Enger has this character of Warwick do a toast at a particular scene, and within that scene it's kind of likened to communion almost, as they all take these tiny little sips of wine, and it just felt like such a kind of, you have no idea in that moment he's going to be a villain, but it just feels like it's a real hint to like a Judas kind of thing going there. He kind of takes the forefront in this kind of communion scene, and then bam, afterwards you find out. So so many great lines.
So in a way he exemplifies, certainly I guess for the first half or so, the sort of banality of evil and the disguise. The true colors come out, but you don't see it coming.
Yeah, because he's a man who really appreciates and loves beauty. He has an appreciation. He's not just a brute thug. You meet some of those and they follow exactly as you would imagine a brute thug to behave. But this Warwick, he loves beauty, he has a real appreciation.
Do you think Rainey, the main character, would have ended up like the sort of brute thug without his wife? Because a lot of it is a kind of love letter to his recently deceased wife. Critics have pointed to the whole Orpheus mythology, and there's a kind of Orpheus and the underworld thing, and those of us who love Hades Town, he's been kind of not so much civilized as sort of grown into a proper good mature person through that relationship. And I guess all the time through this, you've got this actually very scary world, and we don't always know much about why it's so scary, but there's enough there to show actually, no, this is not a very comfortable place to live. And yet here in this lakeside town, they're trying to create some semblance of normal community and love and fellowship. but it is always under threat.
But I do love that. Just the way that there is that, I mean, I cheerfully refuse. There is that kind of just, again, gentle resistance in the face of like worldwide calamity.
Right.
There are these people just eking out a joyous life with each other, you know, and that's just such an inspiration to all of us to kind of be finding the glimmers of joy and the small good things.
In your little corner, even if the rest there's nothing you can do about the big picture.
I was going to say, it had one of my favourite lines in it, which is so great. He writes just briefly about this priest who lives up a ladder at this one point, and he writes, he was suspected of wisdom, but it's a tough thing to prove.
Sophie, that's what I mean about him as a writer. It's just like, wow, how did you even spin that line? And it's so short, yet it so does funny. So much. Just genuine hilarity. While being understated, you know. And
another line he includes is probably doomed and perplexingly merry. Which I'm like, I think I'm going to take that forward for myself.
That probably should be our strapline going forward.
Right, probably doomed, perplexingly merry.
That's right.
We are both.
So I understand that he wrote it during COVID, during lockdown.
Interesting.
And he was trying to find, I mean, obviously that informed a lot of the sense of global peril and confusion. So, you know, we all can remember that, but trying to find a sense of community and connection with other people in difficult circumstances. And so it beautifully portrays that. And it's not rosy tinted or sort of idealized at all. It's messy.
No.
And the hospitality that Lark, that Rainey's late wife, provided for people was just so heartwarming and real and generous and needed.
Yeah, and I feel like that theme comes back later in the novel with Gerard and I think is Evelyn, his wife. And again, just this wonderfully generous hospitality and kindness to strangers that develops into deep friendship. In the midst of, he's not ashamed to paint an ugly world. And a world where there are deep shadows and horrible things going on in those deep shadows. Yet at the same time, alongside it, he's able to just have this brilliance of love and warmth and friendship. And I think that's a very hopeful thing to experience in a novel.
I tell you what I think is amazing about that is it's a very simplistic message to sort of preach, if you like. Look, be nice, welcome the stranger and the outsider and what have you. But he's not preaching at all. He's presenting something that you're sitting there thinking, oh, I want that.
Right, exactly.
Wish I could be part of that. That's what I need, and that's the perfect example of showing, not telling, and saying, yeah, why wouldn't you want this?
My masterpiece is a painting by the renowned English painter J.M.W. Turner, and it is from 1839, and it's an oil on canvas. And it's known as The Fighting Temeraire. It has a longer, less catchy title, which is The Fighting Temeraire Tugged to Her Last Berth to be Broken Up, 1838.
I like that longer title.
Not quite so catchy, but, you know, gives you the description. It does
tell you what earth's going on.
It does tell you what's happening.
That's helpful for people like me who did not grow up in England.
There we go. It gives you that background. And if our listeners want to go and have a look at that, you can go to triptychpod.com and see the show notes. So at a surface reading for this painting, what we're looking at is it's showing the celebrated naval warship, the Temeraire, being towed along the Thames at sunset by a steam tugboat for its final journey to the shipbreaker's yard to be broken for scrap. So the whole kind of tone of it is quite elegiac, it's poignant, It's kind of quite romantic in the colours. It's kind of like this final last journey for this glorious old ship. We actually had a framed print of this in our house when I was growing up.
Really?
Yeah, because my dad loves Turner and also British naval and military history. So
Oh, wow, okay.
we kind of had to have it. So other kids get to go to Legoland, right?
Mhm.
I got dragged around historical monuments, National Trust houses, and English heritage sites. So I used to find this a fascinating painting as a kid. It was like a glimpse into a world that I didn't inhabit, but I was actually quite familiar with, because when you go and you've done so many immersive exhibitions of the Battle of Trafalgar, it kind of gets into your psyche.
It's like, I was there.
Exactly. And as a kid, I mean, like, there was no screens to be had, so what could I do other than read the brochures they handed me? So so yeah, and so this painting, it depicts the Temeraire. It's a celebrated gunship which was crucial for the British naval victory at the Battle of Trafalgar, which is big British sea victory during the Napoleonic Wars. It was a key kind of player in it, and it defended the celebrated flagship HMS Victory, which Lord Admiral Nelson was riding on, and he got shot and killed during that battle. Again, of course, I have visited HMS Victory. I actually tripped over the commemorative plaque, which showed where Nelson fell on the deck when he was shot.
That's actually impressive.
I know.
I'm genuinely impressed that you somehow manufactured to fall where Nelson fell.
That's a full immersion experience.
It really was. I was like about 8 years old, and I fell sprawling on the deck, and then the tour operator looked at me and went, "That's how Nelson died." And I've seen that in subsequent visits, the plaque is now flush to the floor. It's no longer raised. I don't know whether that's me directly.
I suspect you weren't the only one.
Your sacrifice has been honored, and others have been saved from having to sacrifice themselves where Nelson
exactly. So yeah. So the Temeraire was part of that fleet, and basically what we're seeing here is a representative, like a patriotism, the height of the British Empire, naval strength, and also it's showing this kind of new age being heralded, the Industrial Revolution. These warships, they were traditionally they were painted black and gold, but Turner has made a choice here. It's kind of gone white and gold. It's almost like translucent. It's like glowing, like it's like an ethereal beast going to its final resting place. And the sun sets on the age of sail. And we've actually got conflicting accounts of whether Turner saw this being towed down the Thames or not, because it happened. But it doesn't really matter, because Turner's always less about depicting realism, but giving you the kind of the atmosphere, the emotion, and the symbolism of the event. And quite certainly what we're looking at in this painting wasn't actually what happened, because for various reasons. I mean, like we see here, the Temeraire, it's got full mast and rigging up. We know historically that was all scrapped already. They'd stripped it. The Royal Navy had stripped it completely before it was sold. So it definitely didn't look glorious riding down the Thames. We also know that that this use of sunset, he's wanting to show it's a passing age. We're saying goodbye to this kind of era of British naval strength, and maybe the kind of the age of sail and wind, and we've got the Industrial Revolution taking its place. And most people have pointed out that where the Thames is in the east, it definitely wouldn't have been sunset, because the sun sets in the west. So again, that's clearly a choice by Turner, because he's very familiar with doing sunset, sunrise. We also know that it wasn't known by its crew as the Fighting Temeraire either, which sounds very patriotic and cool. It was actually known as the Saucy Temeraire.
Oh, really?
Which sounds a little bit more temperamental.
That's very disappointing.
I know. So that's what the crew called it. They called it Saucy. So that's kind of quite amusing. But all of these things kind of that Turner's using and changing, again, like the tugboat that we see, Turner's altered that so that the smokestack is actually in the wrong place, and the steam, he wants it to be flying backwards, to be going through the mast of the Temeraire, to again show that this is the new age. This is the age of steam and industrial revolution. We're saying goodbye to this, and it's kind of used to that effect in other areas, like it's used in the James Bond film Skyfall, where Daniel Craig's Bond, he meets his new Q, who kind of comments on the painting because they're both looking at it in the National Gallery, and he's like, "Oh, it's a bit grand old warship being ignominiously dragged off for scrap. The inevitability of time. And he's like playfully kind of suggesting that James Bond is the grand old warship who's going off for scrap, being replaced by Q and the age of technology. But I find it really amusing that Bond just grumpily replies, all he sees is a bloody big ship. So on that note, what did you guys make of the painting?
Bloody big ship.
Yes.
Well, you just took all my lines from Bond. So
Sorry.
that was my fallback, because I didn't spend my childhood in these galleries inhabiting the time of the Battle of Trafalgar. So this is all new.
I think my childhood, and I don't think many British kids were going to immersive exhibitions, but I just think that was, my dad was obsessed, and like I said, we were all going to go.
So the thing I noticed is just the use of color. I mean, Sophie, you pointed out that the actual warship was not white, kind of white and gold. But I think that white and gold, it gives it this grandiosity. It's as if you feel a sense of loss, because it is beautiful and the tugboat is ugly. It's just
Yes.
There is this black mass, the smoke coming out. And it does feel like
Sophie's just dropped a chair leg or something. I don't know. Keep going, Joel.
Should we start?
We'll definitely keep that in. No, we'll keep that in, definitely.
Okay, all right. I need to figure out how to pick up now.
The tugboat's ugly.
Yeah, so yeah, you look at the ship and the comparison with the tugboat. The tugboat is so ugly. It's just there. It feels a little shapeless also, while the lines on how do you pronounce it? The
Temeraire.
The Temeraire. The lines on the Temeraire are so elegant and so and just strong. You have to wonder what statement he's making about the two kind of juxtaposed together in terms of maybe the age he's proud of and sees beauty in being overtaken by kind of this necessity that doesn't have much art to it. The use of color, the sunset, I find that striking just as an entry point into. And I think just the fact that the tug is in front of, from our perspective, in front of the ship, is like, okay, what story are you telling me here about all of this?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, it's full of nostalgia, because it's clearly about an age ending and being replaced by function and ugliness. I love the way that the tug's smokestack is spewing out stuff that's pretty much the same colors as the sunset, and yet it's ugly and noxious, and you can imagine that it must stink and is just horrible, whereas the sunset is just gorgeous. And yet the palette is similar. So I think that's fascinating. I think, am I right, Sophie? I think this has been voted Britain's favourite painting, or certainly in the top 2 or 3 consistently.
Yeah.
And I think that says a lot about Britain, that we are a country with history and an influence in the world that we simply do not have now. And so a lot of people kind of live in that nostalgia and want to sort of resurrect it, which is absurd and impossible. So it really taps a sort of cultural nerve, I think, as well as being a beautiful painting. I mean, I love it, but it's got a lot of baggage now.
Yeah, for sure. And it's hard to know what Turner is thinking. I listened to a lecture on it, and yeah, it's hard to know whether he is giving this romanticized kind of celebration of British naval strength and empire, and he's kind of resenting the kind of entrance of like the Industrial Revolution. But people don't think that's necessarily the case. If you look at the reflection of the tugboat, that is actually drawn more sharply in the reflection of it in the water, and it looks quite proud and like it's kind of coming forth. So it could be just about...
I haven't noticed that before.
Yeah, which I thought was really interesting.
It's a bit like a Viking longship in reflection somehow.
It does look like a Viking longship. So, there could be something about the fact that this is coming, this is replacing. It's not all bad, but it is different. So yeah, it's hard to know what Turner's thinking.
I mean, in a way, as a great artist, he would be deliberately ambiguous and opaque, that both are true, at least.
For sure. I mean, he by the time he painted this, in 1839. He was already celebrated in the Royal Academy as an artist, so I don't think he was going to do anything too controversial. You know, he'd probably just have a nod to both. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but I'd think he'd want to play it diplomatically, at least.
I'm intrigued by just the boats in the distance. I kind of wonder if he's trying to give that effect of that former age receding, but while still acknowledging its beauty, just that boat with all its sails unfurled in the back.
It's ghostly.
Yeah, the whole thing is quite ghostly in look. Both of the kind of the sail ships look really ghostly. So it is like this kind of receding age of glory-ish.
My masterpiece is one that I'm very nervous about, but I've also...
That's where we're starting?
That's where we're starting. But I've been plotting and scheming, and it's taken a season and a half for us to get to do some U2. Now, I'm obviously absolutely delighted about this, but, you know, I realize that it's not everybody's cup of tea, and that's fine. I just want to insist that I'm very happy to hear all views. Well, most views. So what?
Consider ourselves told, Joel.
No,
I heard that clearly.
It's an invitation. So anyway, what we're going to do is slightly odd, and that is to take a little trio of songs from the 2009 album No Line on the Horizon, tracks 2, 3, and 4, only because I think the three really do go together thematically and in fact theologically, but there's no indication in the liner notes or anything else I've come across that suggests that they have to be. But these tracks are Magnificent, Moment of Surrender, and then Unknown Caller. And on the face of it, they seem just like sort of regular rock/pop songs, and they don't seem particularly related to one another, either musically or thematically necessarily, but actually scratch a little bit below the surface. And it's very clear that the thing that seems to hold them together is a profound understanding of, well, the traditional doctrine of grace, undeserved but generous mercy. And yet there are all kinds of things that sort of discombobulate and mess with the traditional categories deliberately, and that's what artists love to do and are perfectly entitled to do. Now, the interesting thing is that this album, in part, it took quite a while to come together, like quite a few of the U2 albums, but it came together towards the end when Bono, I think, personally was invited to speak to a religious music festival and conference in Fez, Morocco, which was run by Sufi musicians. And apparently Fez has been traditionally quite a hub for Sufism, which is a kind of mystical form of Islam. And, you know, some people might know of the whirling dervishes in Istanbul and so on. So that's part of this tradition. So it's one of the few, as far as I understand it, one of the few elements of Islam that takes music very, very seriously. And so Bono goes to do this, and the rest of the band comes with him. And basically on the side, they decide to record some tracks. So if you see the video of Magnificent, it's actually filmed in the old city of Fez. And it's simply the band walks through the city sort of pretending to sing this song. And you have this very odd thing of veils being lifted off buildings. Now, that's quite significant by itself. Now, the word magnificent is, of course, one of the, 99 names of Allah. Allah is the magnificent. So it's clearly formed this song within that Islamic context. But what becomes very, very clear as you go through is that thematically and theologically, it's clearly Christian rather than Muslim. So that's interesting. But it's not a kind of syncretism, I don't think, but it's a kind of, well, it's a psalm of praise, Magnificent, which is one of the most surprising things, in a sort of North African Muslim context. So that's fascinating. Then it's followed by Moment of Surrender, which is a very intimate, private song. Moment of Surrender suddenly whisks us back to Europe, to a metro, and Bono is, or the character that is the poet of the song, is having a private moment, clearly with God, presumably, and I think it could be sitting on the tube in London, because he talks about the Stations of the Cross as a sort of play on words, which, you know, could be King's Cross, Charing Cross, and various other stations in London. He is brought to his knees. He doesn't care what everyone around is thinking. This is between him and God. There's a deep brokenness. Brian Eno, who has produced U2 a lot, doesn't necessarily like their music, interestingly, but he says making the recording of this song, Moment of Surrender, in the studio is one of the most extraordinary, almost spiritual experiences of Brian Eno's life. And actually the first take is the one that ends up on the album. So that's extraordinary. And then thirdly, you have Unknown Caller. And as someone who is a bit of an insomniac, this is a song that actually means quite a lot to me, because it's about waking up in those early hours before the sunrise. And, you know, 3:33 is on the clock face. And I cannot tell you how many times I have woken up at 3:33. It's really uncanny. I look at my alarm clock and it says 3:33. Weird. But Bono has talked about how 3:33 is almost like God's phone number, because he's quoting Jeremiah 3:33, "Call to me and I will answer you and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know." And the song is all about calling out, and God is speaking. Presumably, God is the unknown caller. And then half of the song is basically Hammond organ and Edge doing this just stunning solo on the guitar with no more lyrics after that. So it's almost like God is speaking through the guitar solo. Now you put the three together, a psalm of praise, a song of brokenness, and a song about God speaking, you think, whoa, something really big is going on here. So that's why I wanted to do this. But I'm ready for all the brickbats and the ag. You can say what you need. Now is your time.
Why are you characterizing it that way, even before we've started? You know?
It's because I've been here before, and I get a lot of grief, not least from my family.
Okay, all right. So it won't be that bad coming from us then. You know?
I mean, okay, so it's no secret I'm not a U2 fan, okay? I accept that they are universally beloved. They're famous for a reason. I just haven't found that reason yet. In fact, you could say that I still haven't found what I'm looking for.
Oh, you did not.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Wow.
Honestly.
How long
Sophie
were you preparing that one?
Oh.
I just thought of it just now, and I'm like,
anyway,
yeah, gonna do
that's
it.
Brilliant.
Anyway,
moving swiftly on.
Okay, so I don't love the music, the way they put it, but the lyrics are beautiful, and I found so much in that. So, you know, the Magnificent one, it actually began to really grow on me in a very irritating way. On the third listen through,
like a fungus.
the lyrics, yes, the lyrics. Only love can leave such a mark, but only love can heal such a scar. They really started to land and kind of take root, and I was like, that is a beautiful lyric. Yeah, and something deeply Christian about that as well. You know, in the idea of Jesus love. Yeah, it just really it did land. And then Moment of Surrender, again, not massively fan of the music, but it is a really intimate and like an intensely private moment that we're kind of peeking in on, which I thought was really interesting. And again, it's interesting you say that it made you think of like the doctrine of grace and stuff, because that's what I wrote. I wrote the lyrics down it's not if I believe in love, if love believes in me. And I thought that was really interesting because, you know, our belovedness in God is a fact, you know, and it doesn't rely on us to kind of do anything about that. And I loved that. I thought that was really, really beautiful. I thought it was kind of funny that he said he was on his knees on the tube, because I've also been on my knees on the tube as well, but it's because I had food poisoning.
All right, I thought you were going to say it's because you tripped over a memorial or something.
No, I had food poisoning, so it was a very different experience.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Yes, thankfully.
This is a lot, Sophie. This is...
No, it's a lot.
Admiral Nelson and the tube. You know.
I know. It was a moment. Yeah, and then again, this unknown caller, it kind of felt a bit like Job, in the sense that when God shows up in Job, he's kind of like, just shush and let me speak. Which, you know, I thought was a really great device. And again, just kind of ending it with just like this big kind of long musical interlude. And the kind of words, so, you know, it literally says shush now, which I thought was really kind of like a tender, gentle way kind of showing God being like, okay, enough, I'm going to say some things. And yeah, the idea that it says you're free to go as well in the lyrics in that one, which I thought was a really beautiful. It was kind of, it just put me in mind of like, who the sun sets free is free indeed, kind of thing. So there was a lot of really great imagery in it. So although the music didn't land for me, I thought the lyrics were just beautiful.
I'll start with just some of the things that I saw that I thought were just so interesting and bizarre in the midst of what clearly are well, I mean, at points quite introspective lyrics. I mean, some of the imagery is fascinating to me. The kind of seeing your reflection at the ATM machine, I thought was, that's such a snapshot of our modernity, the age we're living in. The speeding on the subway also, just through the stations of the cross, was interesting. And then that idea, every eye looking every other way, counting down till the Pentecost. I love the fact that they're willing to openly wrestle with faith. It's so unusual for a mainstream pop band to not shy away from that, because I think some people would assume that if I go in that direction, I'm going to lose people. They're not going to be able to connect with what's going on. So I love the fact that they do that. In Unknown Caller, this is facetious, but I was like, do they still have a contract with Apple in 2009? Because some of the computers speak. You're like, okay, did you guys have to put that in?
I know. Well, the free album via Apple came after this.
With some straight... Oh, it came after this?
Yes,
wow.
It was the next album, Songs
But
of
I know
Innocence.
they had a collab from before that, because I think they had this iPod.
The U2 iPod, yeah. So,
right, yeah.
They have a long-standing relationship with Apple.
Well, yeah. Well, here we are with it in this song. But, you know, it's interesting the way they're employing that those devices in terms of using a computer. And I'm like, yeah, now that I use a Mac, Foursquare makes sense. For Windows users, I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
It's an interesting juxtaposition of things which feel timeless and things which feel very bound in a moment, in a cultural moment that you're like, okay, a few years later, you might not get that reference, which I think is an interesting choice in terms of songwriting. Some people want their songwriting to be timeless, and some people accept a moment they're living in. And just write in that moment.
I imagine it's very hard to create something to be timeless.
Yes,
because you just don't know what will carry.
And your images need to be concrete for people to be able to connect with them. If you get too vague, then you lose everybody in trying to, I guess, to catch everybody. I did resonate with the lines in The Magnificent. I was born to sing for you. I didn't have a choice but to lift you up and sing whatever song you wanted me to. I give you back my voice from the womb. My first cry was a joyful noise. Oh, and I just, you feel the psalm in that. You feel that Psalm 139 wrestling with God is inescapable type of thing, and that whole idea. I didn't have a choice but to lift you up. Yet you don't feel like he's frustrated with that. It just feels like he's coming to terms with himself as creature and God as the Magnificent.
Because it's interesting with that one is that as it begins, you might think this is a kind of overblown love song, and if you were really sort of hyperbolic and wanting to sort of lay it on thick, for your girl. You might say, I was born to sing for you, but that's absurd. And actually, a lot of people who don't get the kind of psalmic background wouldn't realize what he's doing, because it's ridiculous. It only makes sense if it is pointing up to God.
Part of me would maybe this sounds absolute sacrilege to you, Mark, but part of me wants to give that material to another musician. I'd just be interested to see how someone else would sing it or arrange it. Even how would Paul Simon sing it? I'm just, how would Dua Lipa sing it? I don't know. I just think the material is great, but I think my issue with the music is that I think just their sound became very ubiquitous with bad Christian bands who did a kind of knockoff. So they took what U2 were doing and did it much worse.
Yeah, which is always the way. Now they're doing it with Coldplay and other people.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a shame, because then that kind of generalized sound kind of gets this reputation, which, can be unfair.
From a music standpoint, though, Sophie, even though I didn't feel like I loved this, I appreciated I think the technical excellence. The Edge barely plays chords. He expresses harmony with melodic lines. And I'm listening, I'm like, that's crazy. It's just crazy that you're able to do that. And I can't remember the bass player's name, but
Adam Clayton.
Right. So Clayton adds so much harmony with his bass lines. He's doing so much there, but it works. So again, on one hand, I'm like, wow, there are aspects of this kind of atmospheric rock that I like. I'm not sure I'm loving what's happening as these songs are coming together, but I'm appreciating this is not easy to do. This takes a lot of skill to be able to express yourself this way. And it is their sound, love it or hate it. As you say, other people have kind of taken it and
done it worse.
and done bad tributes to it in a lot of ways. And I do feel like with U2, there are times as you look at their albums over the years where it feels like that sound comes together in a way that you're like, oh, okay, wow, that really worked really well. And then there are other times you're like, okay, all right, I see what you're doing, but okay.
We've got a dystopian novel. No, what did you call it, Sophie? A gentle dystopia.
Dystopia, yeah.
Yep. 3 U2. Well, Sophie wants them to be poems, but they're actually songs. And a great masterpiece by Turner, the Temeraire. So these are very disparate and disconnected. So what on earth are we going to do with these?
I feel like we're maturing because we get into these conversations with no idea where it's going.
That's right. And we come out of them too, similarly.
Yes, sometimes we didn't go very far.
I've got one thought, for such as it is. I think there's a bit of the sort of bygone age.
I literally just wrote that down.
I didn't, so I'll see where you guys are going with this.
So, obviously, the ship is a bygone age. In I Cheerfully Refuse, we don't know what's gone wrong, but there are little hints of what has been lost, certainly. I don't think so. There might be a bit of nostalgia there. The U2 songs, there isn't nostalgia, but there's definitely a reflection on the past and whatever it was that caused the poet to fall to his knees on the tube. And there's a deep regret and pain and guilt perhaps there. So they're engaging with the past in different ways. How's that?
I was thinking of it more like this kind of bygone age, more in terms of like having to embrace the uncertainty of what a new future looks like. So I was thinking, in the sense that, we've got the tug pulling the Temeraire, and we're like it or not, this is our new age and this is where we're going, Good. And I feel the same with with the book, they're thrown into a new age, and Rainey, the character, because of the events that happen in the book, he is thrown into a new uncertain time where, like it or not, this is what's happened and you have to move with it, which I think, really interesting. And how people go about approaching new things coming in a future which is uncertain, and the adjustments that come with that, like both physically and emotionally. There's links, I guess, to the songs. We've got these intimate looks into somebody's life, and things have obviously caused pain and regret, but there is a sense of kind of embracing, well, being held by the love that is around them. We kind of sense in the song this kind of divine love speaking to the person, both in Unknown and Moment Surrender, and that's the same with Rainey in the book as well. Like, he's carried forth with the love from both his community, his wife, and the people that he meets along the way. Yeah, looking for the joy and the glimmer and the love in the moments of uncertainty.
Yeah, I feel like, Mark, you had talked earlier about just Rainey and his relationship with Lark, and how, who would he have been without that relationship? But then you also see what's happening to him in the midst of his grief because of his relationship with Saul. And weird way, this too is redemptive for him, and kind of rescues him from his despair. He's still on his quest, but he's been distracted by somebody else's need. And he's now learning to love her. And it's interesting, just kind of in the midst of the whole setting, how you're watching a character on this redemptive arc, and it surrounded by the realities that he's in, and this broken world. And I feel some of that in a much more I guess a kind of contemporary modernity in A Moment of Surrender. This is a character, a lot is going on around him, but he's on a journey in the midst of all of that, and kind of coming to this place, this place of recognition, and not really concerned about the people around him. I feel like at times with Rainey, in his journey, he's figured out what he needs to zero in on. He's accepting the next challenge as it comes, but you're watching him formed by that.
There's something so refreshing about his relationship with Saul, I think, that we live in such a cynical age, and there are all kinds of ways in which, intergenerational relationships are complex and fraught and dangerous. And it's just so refreshing that this one really isn't. It's combative, but it's healthy. And that's so rare. And you just think, and there's just something beautiful about that. And I think we've really lost, certainly in Britain, I don't know about in the Caribbean, Joel, but we've lost intergenerational connections. Perhaps maybe Caribbean society is healthier in terms of how it engages with the older generations. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure it is much more healthy. I think we're probably broken in different ways. You feel that in our culture differently, but yeah, you do feel a great attention now in those areas, and then everyone is busy pursuing what they think is going to make them happy, and I think we take each other for granted in many ways. One of the themes in I Cheerfully Refuse is you watch this point at which Rainey is forced to make this choice to give up his bass guitar. And it's fascinating how much that you see the wrestling, and this is like him clinging to the past in a certain way, clinging to a certain side of himself, but no, to rescue this this girl who he barely knows but recognizes is in need. He's going to give that up, and then you see later on how his music comes back to him in a certain way. And yeah, again, thinking about Moment of Surrender and some of those ideas where you do gain by losing, and just that theme, that spiritual reality, and how that can be illustrated in so many different ways.
Is that going on in the Turner as well, or is that?
Yeah, I was thinking that there's a sense of, there's obviously the big sense of nostalgia and something passing, but there's also a sense that, there is a gain in heading into this new era. There are aspects of it which are not good, but there are other aspects which are great. I mean, the kind of creation of jobs and the fact that things can be mass produced, even though in a lot of ways that's not great.
And you can move faster now.
But you can move faster, everything, gets better for in a larger sense for humans. Obviously there's always going to be those who like miss out, usually the poorer and more vulnerable people who are the ones stuck in the factories. But there is an improvement in terms of transport and speed and things becoming available.
Have I mentioned here before the old gag from PJ O'Rourke, the US commentator, comic writer as well? But he said, there's one word to mention whenever people get nostalgic about some great era of history. Have I mentioned this before?
No.
He said basically, it could be Tudor England or the Roman Empire or whatever it is, some so-called golden age. And he says there's one word you just have to say, and that is dentists. Basically, it doesn't matter what period of history it is in the past, dentistry was always worse.
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
I was gonna say antibiotics or something, but yeah, that too.
I think the Turner is wrestling with a theme that does overlap just with the other two in terms of the inevitability of needing to move on and let something go. It is inevitable. However we feel about it, the world is changing. You can't kind of just keep it static in a moment you love. Things are happening around you and things are happening to you. And I think you can feel Turner processing that need to move on in this painting, to say, hey, it is moving on. However we feel about the past, it's moving on. And I guess we have to come to terms with where we're going. And then you add the layers that Leif Enger wrestles with, but we can find beauty in even what feels like a catastrophic change.
And survive, even.
Yeah, and survive and love and build friendships.
I think that's why I really love the fact that Turner presents this moment in the way he does. It's not, he could have painted this ship at any point, but he paints it in the midst of a daily cycle. We've got the sun setting, the idea that the sun sets and the sun rises and things are cyclical and things will move on. Just like he could have painted it in the shipyard.
Or in its glory in the metal.
Yeah, exactly. He could have painted it in situ in any other kind of way, but he kind of does it in the open kind of water in nature, kind of showing this kind of, the cyclical, it's moving on. This is like sunset, but a sun is going to rise, and I do enjoy that.
It's something that you see in that unexpected moment. And I think Unknown Caller is doing that too. This is just go back to sleep, really. This is just, you woke up in the middle of the night, you can't sleep, just go back to sleep. But there in that unexpected moment, he's having this encounter and this conversation that's affecting him in a particular way amidst all the computer speak, but it just, it's like, oh, wait, we could bypass this moment so quickly, but it is a significant moment if you stop to take it in.
I mean, this is the old sort of romantic era idea of the sublime, is that you have these intimations of eternity and transcendence in this life and in this world. So the U2 album was called No Line on the Horizon. The idea being, and the cover sort of indicates this, that there are these sort of connecting points to something beyond. You certainly get that in Turner's art a lot of the time, because and it might be this sort of archetypal moment of modernity. I mean, his really famous one, Rain, Steam and Speed, of the train in the mist, and it's very sort of evocative and opaque in a way. You can't sort of really pinpoint details. It's all just this swirl of speed. It's an extraordinary capture of that, long before film was able to show us what's actually going on at speed. But then in the novel, you have these extraordinary moments of breaking into real darkness. I think there's something, each of them in their different ways is groping for something beyond, which I think is probably a theme we come back to frequently in our chats on this, but it's very vivid in different ways in these three things, I think.
You talked about the sublime. There's a line right just on the last page, almost one of the last lines of I Cheerfully Refuse. He says, I'm always last to see the beauty I inhabit. And it's just, it sits by itself on the page, and it deserves to sit by itself on the page. But he's expressing a reality that, yeah, I think it connects to me, all of the pieces we're looking at today, in terms of there's something there to be seen, even in a ship being tugged away to be broken up, even in a 3:33 in the morning, not being able to sleep, kind of trapped between the dawn and midnight and the dawn type thing, even on a subway journey, a regular commute, that we can miss the beauty there if we're not careful. And it's in a sense, it's redemptive to be the last to see it, because at least you've seen it. You know.
Funny you mentioned at the end of the book, the first line of the book. Here at the beginning, it must be said, the end was on everyone's mind. And that's perfect for a dystopia, of course, because something has ended and who knows how long we're going to carry on. I don't know, that's very resonant right now. I mean, the world has gone mad. There are wars. Everyone's saying, we're on the cusp of total climate crisis. What is it? El Nino is kicking off, and I don't know whether it's hit Jamaica yet, but it's jolly windy here. But this is just Maidenhead. And then of course we're on the cusp of AI Armageddon. Everyone's talking about the end. It feels like the end, and these three things are all trying to hold on to what matters.
There was a great quote near the end. Leif is talking about, I don't know if it's him as a boy or somebody else as a boy, when he's taken to church by his mum, and the pastor is always talking about the end is nigh and the apocalypse. And the mother says that the church was a broken compass, and that our job always and forever was to refuse apocalypse in all its forms and work cheerfully against it.
Wow.
Which I thought was an incredible sentence.
And he talks about, I don't know if you've heard the conversation he had with Russell Moore about this book, but he talked about his upbringing being in that kind of church with, really quite heavy-handed handling of end-time stuff. And this is a beautiful, refreshing antidote. Well, I think we've covered a lot of bases, and we've managed to get through that without sounding complete morons. But maybe that's for others
Speak
to...
for yourself.
Yes,
well,
others can judge that.
Others will judge that. But any last words before we wrap up?
I think for me, it's just reiterating the idea of every moment holy. Just... Not that I want to plug someone else's book, but but it is that sense that in whether it's the kind of the gathering together or just the mundane moments of life, doing the dishes or whatever, there is beauty and joy to be found in the smallest of things if we look for it against the impending doom.
Yes. What was that doom line again? Can you remember?
Probably doomed and perplexedly merry.
That's it.
Yeah, I think again, life has been tremendously busy over the last several weeks, and just full. But getting the opportunity to see the world through the eyes of artists just continues to be such a redemptive thing for me. In the midst of details, in the midst of just distressing situations, just kind of that. The perspective that comes from reflection, and not just being in the moment, but reflecting on the moment, continues to encourage me and just help me to realize, oh, wait a minute. You're not just moving from thing to thing. There's stuff to see here. There's beauty to behold. God is with us in the midst of all of this. And I think just what we get to do is such a gift because of that.
Beautiful. And in fact, the title of the novel has an intentionality to it. He's decided to be cheerful and not give in to the despair of the apocalypse. And all three masterpieces, I think, help us do that in a really beautiful way. I don't think I'd appreciated even just before the last 5-10 minutes.
How about that?
So how about that? So that's good. Well, that wraps things up. Our next episode, the plan is that we're going to be talking about the song Who Are We Fooling? Brooke Fraser, and an artwork by James Turrell called Green Mountain Falls Sky Space will be revealed, and quite possibly the series Midnight Mass, but we're still talking about that, and all be revealed next time. Until then, thanks very much for listening, and goodbye.
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 That was Triptych, hosted by me, Mark Mennell, with Joel Bain in Jamaica and Sophie Kiddingley in the UK, with tech and editorial expertise from Owen Feetham. Visit our website at triptychpod.com, that is triptychpod.com, for episode show notes, background information and various links. Please do get in touch with any questions, comments and even suggestions for future episodes. And if you've enjoyed this, please do share it around and rate us wherever you get your podcasts.